to Querying Science, Theology, Philosophy, and Spirituality, QSTPS TV. This is the LGBTQ Center for Science, Philosophy, Spirituality, and Theology. Sometimes I mix up the letters, it's just QSTPS. And we are happy to be back for this year. Of course, it's a new year. And today I want to go. I'm very enthused by time. I believe time. Of course, I even have a playlist in this channel called "Time is God," and time is time is life. So whenever you read in the religious books that um, that that time, that you have eternal life, it is eternal time, it's infinity. So when you translate, the beauty of language is that replace many you can replace words with other words. And before, in the past, I'm still dogmatic of using King James version of the Bible. A reason being, King James version of the Bible is the King James version of the Bible is the best Bible, English wise. It doesn't use the English is very it uses few words in English compared to the other English versions in the world. And secondly, it was they took a lot of time to translate the Bible from Hebrew and Greek. And thirdly, it was a Bible by a king. Yes, and that's why I like the King James version of the Bible. And it's a very interesting Bible. Of course, now what was I trying to say? I was trying to say, much as I'm dogmatic about using the King James version, I you can use any Bible version to read the Bible. Like now, there's a nice Bible out there. Like Message is so contemporary English, and very many other Bibles are using different English language, types of English language. What I'm trying to say is that English is a very flexible language, so you can read any version. And sometimes, like right now, when you're a pastor or someone who is studying the Word of God, because we are all pastors, yeah, in one way or another, as long as you know the Bible, you can be a pastor. And you pastor your children, you pastor your family, you pastor your friends. Yes, you know the Bible. So we are all pastors. It's just that some are more pastoral than others. And the what I'm trying to say is that um, because of these versions, you can study. Like sometimes, if I'm to do a video, I would do a video with all the versions and read and find out which version is saying. But I don't really need to waste time to say that, because what one version says is it carries the day. It can carry the day, even if it sounds different from another one. They are basically saying the same thing. Basically, it's kind of more or less the same. There's a very slight difference. Of course, there are very, very key differences. And that's why I stick to the King James Version, because they really tried. If you study how they took time to translate the Bible, they really, really tried, and they did well. Of course, there are some words that are not in Hebrew that are in the King James Version Bible, because English did not have those words, or didn't want. There's these days, in my life, I have what you call sinister interpretation of history and issues. So there's a sinister story behind the Bible, and you can have a sinister interpretation that some words were they were not translated for a reason, to hide the meaning. So like when you find the word sodomite, if you sinisterly interpret the writing of the Bible, King James version of the Bible, they were hiding. the meaning of the sodomite. Because in Hebrew, the sodomite is Kadesh, which means a holy one. Because the Holy Spirit is Ruach Kodesh. And Kadesh meant, at the same time, it meant a temple prostitute. That's why in the NIV Bible, sodomite, instead of using sodomite, they say male prostitute. Because when they translate it from Hebrew, it is talking about sex, a sex worker. And that is what they were. But the King James Version of the Bible interpreted it and wrote it as sodomite, to mention, to name that the type of sex that was happening at that time was homosexual, and therefore, instead of calling them Kadesh or prostitutes, let's call them according to, we create a name for it. So the King James Version actually created the word sodomy. It is not the creation of Hebrew people. The Hebrew people never called that lifestyle sodomy. They called it Kadesh, and sometimes they call it Caleb, to be a dog. The male sex worker was a dog, and the female was not really given an animal, but the man was given an animal. He was a dog, called Caleb. So, and that's why sometimes I make fun of Mormons, that you go to the planet Kolob. So I always think, is that a gay planet that Mormons sent people? Yeah, because Caleb is a dog in Hebrew. And remember, Caleb was the friend of Joshua when they went to the promised land. They were the only two old men who made it to the promised land. The rest of their age mates died because of disobedience, and according to the Bible. But we can have our interpretation about what happened. So so you see, and then in the Latin Bible, sodomite is not called sodomite; it's called effeminati, because according to them, gay people are feminine. So you can see the beauty of reading very many versions of the Bible is to understand how, when they found words they couldn't translate, what did they think the words meant? So you see, for the Latin people, the Romans, they said these men tend to be feminine. So it seems we will call them effeminati. We will not call them sodomite. And remember, the Latin Bible came before the King James Version of the Bible. So the King James Version of the Bible was a late comer in interpreting the word Kadesh. The Romans were early. And so when they got the Hebrew Bible, they called it, what do you call it? They called sodomite or Kadesh, they called them effeminati, because they are feminine. And so anyway, I'll do another study of all the versions of the Bible chronologically, to see how the word changed, because it was the Latin Bible, then you have the King James Version of the Bible that come with sodomite. And for information, even the King James Version fought with the Geneva Bible that was also created, and the word they use is buggery. They call them buggers, which is very funny, because the gay population in Europe was in Bulgaria, and so the name buggery was actually to talk about the gay sex that was happening in Bulgaria, and it went to England, and then England, because the Geneva Bible, or there's a Bible used by the Americans who went, the Britons who went to America, didn't like King James because he was gay. So in their Bible, they wrote, instead of sodomite and all of this, they used other name like buggery, to really remember that their king was a bugger. And if you study the history between the war King James had with the other Christians, it was because of his sexuality. And some of them left England because the king was gay. And when it was known, they were not happy and they went. And that's why the Britons who went to America didn't go with the King James Version of the Bible. They went with the Geneva. And this was the Plymouth Brethren. But we'll do the history next time to tell you to understand that. So after then the King James Version of the Bible, then you had the NIV, which is a very late edition. And so the edition NIV doesn't say sodomite, it says male prostitute. And so we will do, when we get time, we're going to do a series of all the Bible versions that and what each of them say, how they translate the word Kadesh. It's very important. But the most important thing is the Hebrew. Stick to the Hebrew. That's the original. And the original is gay men were in the temple. And it was the reason why they were in the temple. Religion of those days was sexual. Sex was part of religion. And this is in tandem with Hinduism, which is the oldest religion with texts. It's the oldest religion with texts. And Hindu temples used to have sex temples. They used to have gods for sex and gods for war, gods for everything. That's why Hindus have more than 3 million gods. It's because everything can be deified. And this is why I've said they are the ones who wrote down. But actually the oldest religion is animism, which is in Africa. And Africa and India are very, very related. It's just that Africans did not spend time to write their religion. They just talk. No, they talk. That's African nature. So animism means everything is God. Everything that exists is a God in itself. It has life, anima. It has spirit. And the spirit is God. Like I said in the other video about God is a spirit. So when even I was listening to another guy, I like listening to Jordan Maxwell, a very good philosopher. And he was saying how when he was in class, he asked the father, Catholic father, that why do we go to hell when the Bible says when you die, it's your spirit that goes? How can a spirit burn? You see? And the Catholic father could not answer him. And it was a very true question. That's why I don't believe there is hell. Reason being, your body decomposes. So it dies. It's left there. If there was hell, your body is supposed to go to hell after you die. But why is it your spirit? And how can a spirit burn? Because a spirit has no flesh and bones. That's what even Jesus said, that God is a spirit. And then in another verse, Jesus says that a spirit has no flesh and bones. So how can a spirit burn? See, that's the weird thing people are still to understand. And that's why there's no hell. But we'll discuss these things. There is a lot to discuss. It's just that I don't have time to. I'm just trying to get. I have a very busy schedule. There are many things to do. So I have to really organize my time to share this knowledge with you. So I will have to sit down and do that. Anyway, that was just what you call ad libitum. I was opening the session and telling you about Bible versions, that there are very many, but for a very, I've changed my lifestyle, is really becoming interesting. I have what you call, I've added more interpretations. Of course, I told you there's a sinister interpretation of the Bible. Sinister. You read mischief in the character. Yes, even in God, God can be mischievous. Why did he plan that man sins? That's very naughty. Why do you want people to sin? If you really love people, you will not let them suffer. That's my understanding. And there are many people who do that. There was a man who told me, a straight man, He told me what he did to get his wife. He tortured her with a test. And he said, he told her to come and see him at a certain time. And then he deliberately delayed to see her reaction. So if she reacted angrily that why are you late and everything, then he would know this is not the person to be with because she can't wait for me. But if she, when he came late and she didn't complain, she said, "Oh, you've come." I said, "Now that is the one," and that's how he got married to her because she waited and she didn't complain. But other people will complain and tell you, "You know what you did." So what I'm trying to say is that he was sinister. He had a plan. He tested. Even this is why the Catholic Church is going through a lot of crisis in the sense of changing the Lord's Prayer, because there's a belief that God cannot lead you into temptation. But if you understand the Bible in a sinister way, God can lead you to temptation. Because that's what Jesus told God. Lead us not into temptation. He's ordering God. Yes, he's ordering God. That prayer, part of the prayer, Jesus is actually ordering God. So what does that mean? Prayer is also an issue of ordering. You know, you go and tell the king, "King, set me free." You know, people think that prayer is just worship. You know, prayer has very many facets. It's diverse. So sometimes prayer is worship. You know, you go and tell God, "Oh, you're wonderful, you're holy, there is nobody like you." You bow down and praise him. Then there is demands, there's asking. Have you seen a child? When a child wants something from you, they demand, "I want it. I want now." And then if you don't give it, starts crying. Yes, that's how children are. They are demanding. Why? Because you've said you're the parent, that you're the provider. They see you giving them food, they see you buying for them clothes, they see you giving them everything. So who are you to attack the child for asking for something from you? You see? So that's what Jesus even did. Jesus told his father, "Lead us not into temptation." It was an order. So that part of the prayer, it's God being ordered. Why? Why did Jesus say that? He said it because he can lead you to temptation and then you fall. So what was Jesus trying to say? That you don't sin, and philosophically speaking, you don't sin because it's your volition. Sometimes it's God who is allowing you to sin. He lets you sin. So you can you can even question God and say, "Why did you let me fall into temptation? And you knew I was going to fall in it." That's what I'm saying about the Garden of Eden. You read a very sinister God, because how could he allow people to sin? Have you seen a puppet? You know, puppet, you can talk to a puppet and tell the puppet, "Don't dance." But it will dance because you're holding it. You're holding the puppet and then you look at it. "Don't dance." But you're the one who holds the strings, so it will dance. And then you punish the puppet for dancing. It's almost madness. So that's what you call sinister interpretation, which is now, I sometimes read the Bible like that and I really get shocked. Then there is also what you call mystical interpretation, and that one is now very interesting. And this is where we're going into the story. Mystical interpretation means mysterious interpretation, that you smell a rat. And it is so weird. And that's why now these days I listen to people like Jordan Maxwell, David Icke. You know, David Icke is very mystical in the sense that he makes you think about reality. And sometimes you think it's an illusion. And I think happens because we are living in a world whereby we ingest a lot of chemicals and we take medications, and all of these things have an effect on the brain, especially if you are on medication, any. Yes. And not only any medication, especially if you are ingesting anything, eating. I believe the reason why people fast and they do dry fasts is because they don't, one of the physical and therefore spiritual or physio spiritual um, understandings of fasting is that when you don't take water or food, or when you're on a dry fast, communication is clear. And it's for a reason, for even a physical reason. Not a physical, for a physical reason. One physical reason is when you don't eat, there is no chemical entering the bloodstream. Remember, the brain is filled with blood. Now, when you eat anything, it will go to the bloodstream. Now, depending on the content and the potency of that food, your brain can be affected. And when your brain is affected, your mind is affected, because that's where the mind is. The mind is in the brain, the psychology. So, this is why when you drink alcohol, you see, alcohol, there is a certain chemical that makes it very potent. What I mean by potent, it can change, it can alter your consciousness, it can alter your mind, it can alter your brain. So when you drink alcohol, it does that to the body, and you are not able, you you're not able to psychologically function very well if you take too much of alcohol. Little alcohol is okay. It's just that too much excess is a bit dangerous. Not only because of the physical effects, but even psychologically, you will be controlled by it. Now, so if you're fasting and it's a dry fast, and you like communicating, it's very clear. Whatever you're hearing in your mind, you will really value it, because there's a way, those of you who have been fasting, you can understand that there's a way things become clear in the understanding. So what I'm trying to say, the reason why it's clear, or it sounds clear, it's because you are not taking in chemicals. Because what the body does when you're fasting, if you don't eat at all, the body looks for food from the system. Because I've told you, we are made of chemicals. We eat chemicals because we are made of chemicals. So the body will, when you've not eaten, it will look for the chemicals. This is why when you go to areas where there's famine and they haven't eaten for a month, they become very thin. Why are they becoming thin? The body is eating itself, because it can't get food, and the cells need food. They need chemicals to survive. So they look for chemicals in the body. So this meat now becomes, it disappears because you're not eating. So the body now starts eating itself. And then the cells, when it has eaten everything and there's nothing else to eat, the person dies. That's why they die of lack of asphyxiation, the lack of air. It's because the body has eaten itself. The cells, you see, food goes to the blood. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The stomach is made up of very many blood vessels. So when you eat food, the food goes into the blood, and then the food that is not needed goes into the excretory system, the alimentary system, the end. It goes, after that goes to the colon, after that it goes to the rectum. All of that is unnecessary chemicals, because even feces is a chemical. Yeah, it's not just that. It is an unnecessary chemical. Have you noticed when you eat food, sometimes when you eat food and you don't go to the loo, it's because the food you ate was the food you ate is the food you ate was 80% was needed by the body. So sometimes you can eat it and then you don't go to the loo, like drinking water. Water is so vital to the body, you don't excrete it, you don't go to the loo to remove water. But if you've drunk contaminated water, you will get amoeba and you will go to the loo. Just try it. Go and drink contaminated water. You will definitely go to the loo. Not urinating, passing feces, because the water is not necessarily good water. But when you drink good water, you will not go to the loo to pass water. You won't, because it is not contaminated water. So the body needs water, and the blood vessels, they drink up all the water because they need oxygen and they need hydrogen. So it's done. So that's why when you drink water, you kind of glow, because it is needed in the body. And this is why when you're fasting, if you fast for long, you'd rather be drinking water. It will keep you healthy, because water, it doesn't take you to the loo, because it's needed. But these other foods we eat, these meats and all of these things, they have certain chemicals that are not needed in the body. See, the body is so clever. It just looks for what it wants, and not the blood, because when you eat, it is your blood that is eating, because of the blood vessels. So that's why now when you fast, dry fast, there's a way your mind is clear, but it's not really clear. It's just that you believe it is clear. I don't know. It's why I'm struggling to explain. It's because it's very spiritual, and for us who have been fasting, may have been fasting, I understand fasting enough. I know what it means, and there were times when I used to fast when I was on medication. And this is a bit dangerous, because that time, you see, medication, the problem of medication, and this is why I always tell people, if you're on medication, don't do a dry fast. Yes, if you're on medication, don't do a dry fast. Reason being, medication is so powerful, it goes to the brain. As I've told you, everything that goes to the stomach goes to the blood. That's what happens. Everything that goes to the stomach goes to the blood. And everything that goes to the blood goes to the body. And there are some drugs whose effect affects the brain more than anything. So when you're on, that's why when I was on medication and I was fasting that time, I tried to do a dry fast. I was, or what I call dry fast, 6 to 6. I didn't eat anything, but I was taking medication. It was dangerous. It was not good. The what happened? The dreams I had and the feelings I had, I was in another world. Go and talk to guys who take marijuana and weed, and they have not eaten. They even see themselves flying. Astral projection, all of these things happen. These paranormal activities, they happen. And so my mind was really, I was like, which world am I in? I actually felt I was in an illusion. And I went crazy. That was 2016. Because 2016 I was running back to church, and I didn't understand myself. But I knew I was gay. Yes, at that one I had no issue. It's just that I was really trying to solve the spiritual issue I was having in my life. And so I was fasting but taking medication, which was wrong. It's not supposed to be like that. And the medication I was taking affects a lot your brain. You see. That's why if you're even on psychiatric medicine, or even STI medicines, anything, even alcohol, even alcohol, because alcohol alters your consciousness, it alters your mind. You can do big things. It's just, even weed is powerful. Anything that plays a, go and study the foods. There are certain foods that affect your brain. Yeah, certain foods that affect your brain. Other foods don't. Like fish is a very good food for the brain because it has omega 3. Omega 3 is the building blocks of the neurons in the brain. Look at Japanese. Do you know why they are amongst the clever people in the world? They eat fish. They eat fish. Sushi, all of these seafood, they eat it. And what does it have? Omega 3. Go and study what omega 3 does to the brain. And so it's found in fish and it affects the brain. There are some foods that have oil that doesn't affect the brain. I mean, look at England. The main famous food is fish and chips. They know it's brain power. You eat fish, and look at them. They are amongst the best builders. The best engineers, all of them. They're hidden there. So what am I trying to tell you? Food is powerful, and it affects the brain, and that's what I always tell people. That contrary to belief that there is a difference between the psyche and the physio, they are actually the same. They are connected. They're interconnected. So, and you'd rather focus on building the physio than the psyche. I mean, ask yourself, why did Jesus die? He was the Son of God. Why did he die? Why did he shed blood? He was the Son of God. Angels, do angels shed blood? That's what people need to ask themselves. It's very weird. Angels don't shed blood. Yeah, you shed blood. That's a sign you're human. And Jesus shed blood. That was a sign he was human. The humanity of Jesus is in his death. Very human. He even died. He even cried. But the godlikeness of Jesus was he resurrected. That's the godlike power. And that's why even in the eschatological doctrine and end times teaching, there's a belief that the Antichrist will die and then will resurrect. Why is it that so? It is to repeat what Jesus already did. But if you really study religion, there is really no Antichrist. It's just a repeat, because the way Jesus died and resurrected, it already happened in Egypt. Horus was the god who died and resurrected. And Nimrod, whom we are going to read, of course, so sorry. Sometimes when I'm on religion, I really go free. So the video, what we're supposed to do, we won't do it. We won't do it in this video. We'll have to title this video something else. Yeah, because of I went to very many things. We were to study about Babylon and the mystical surroundings about Babylon right now in the world. And Nimrod, the name Nimrod is actually the name of a god in Babylon that time. And his mother was Semiramis. And she actually, no, in fact, his wife was Semiramis. He was Nimrod, and they had a child called Tammuz. So when Nimrod died, he was a mighty hunter, the great hunter of the Lord. And he died, and Semiramis was pregnant. But actually, in real sense, Semiramis had sex with somebody else. So when he died and she was pregnant, she told the people that even though Nimrod died, he's the one who impregnated me, and he's gone to the sun. It's the sun rays that hit my womb, and I got a baby. And that was called, the baby was now called Tammuz. And even in the Hebrew calendar that came from Babylon, the Hebrews have two calendars, the one they had before they went to Babylon, and the one that came from Babylon. And in the Hebrew calendar, there's a month called the month of Tammuz. That was the month Babylonians used to cry for Tammuz for 40 days or 30 days, mourning for his death. So what am I trying to say? Before Jesus Christ died, there were already death and resurrection cults in the world. So that's why many atheists don't really understand Christianity. Not understand Christianity. They are not Christian. It's because if they have studied the death resurrection cults that existed before Jesus Christ, then Jesus' story was just a photocopy of those ones. That's what, if you watch Zeitgeist was saying that, Zeitgeist was the video that was educating people that, what, religion, your Christianity is not a new religion. It is actually a photocopy. Jesus was just doing what Horus already did. Yeah, so we'll discuss all of those things very well, properly. It's just ad libitum. When I'm ad libitum, I'm talking. I'm pouring my thoughts out. So we'll end it here. We'll end it this way, because now what we're going to do now is going about Babylon and the gate of Babel, where we are right now. And so what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say the power of chemicals, the power of what you eat, what you drink. And don't be so dogmatic. There's this, just do what you want, and let's see the effects. Like if you're a vegan, continue eating vegetables. It's okay if that's your life. If you are a carnivore, please eat. If you want to drink alcohol, please drink. You want to do weed, do it. Yes. Why I am a very liberal person is that that's how we study. That's how we know. We know the world through the effects of doing these things. You see how we know homosexuality? Because they are there. Yeah. That's how we know homosexuality. It's real. That's why we always talk to churches and mosques, telling them, please understand, these people are here. They are real. Yeah. So don't attack gays in the name that the Bible says. The Bible is theory. Anything written is theoretical. Yes, anything written is theoretical. It's just theory. I can write anything. Anything. I can even write that the sun came from a planet called Bolong. I can write it down right now, and it is the truth. And now, is it true or false? Nobody knows. Because, have you been to Bolong? Have you been to Bolong? You've not been to Bolong. But you can believe it. I can write that the sun came from Bolong. And then I go to a village in the Amazon and I preach to them. And then I have powers. I can turn water into wine. I can drop drugs and all of these things inside water. And they see magic. And then what do they say? Oh my God, it's true. Bolom is heaven. And they have never seen Bolom. Because my powers have confirmed Bolom exists, they will say, yes, we believe. We believe in Bolom. And they have never seen it. That's religion. Religion just needs power. If you have power, you're done. You're done. Because theory needs power. It needs practicability. You can't say that you're from God. You see, that's why Moses Why did Moses have a big following? He had a following because he could do miracles. He had power. And guess what? Even the Egyptians had power. They are magicians. That's why to me, power is just power. There's nothing like good power, but power is just power. Power means you can do anything. You can I mean the same God that created the world is the same one that destroyed it. What does that mean? Does he have good power, bad power? No, it's power. That's what power is. You have power. You can destroy your phone. Destroy your phone. The same people who made your phone can destroy it. You see, that's power. You see, that's power. It's power. Power has nothing like good, bad. You are good God, bad God. Did you notice God? Did you notice God did not call himself good? And even if he did, it doesn't mean he can't do bad. And that's the same with humans. That's the interesting thing about human nature. It is just like God's nature. Man can kill, man can give life. Man can destroy, man can construct. That is science. The secret of science, the secret of the tree of knowledge of good and evil is that it is a tree of knowledge. Don't put good and evil there. It is the tree of knowledge, the tree of science. That is the secret. And science has positive effects and negative effects. That's what you call. So you can call the tree of knowledge of good and evil the tree of knowledge of positive and negative. The tree of knowledge of yin and yang, or yang and yin, because yang is good, yin is bad. Simple. So that's science. That's why, as a human being, even God, he gets angry, which is not a positive emotion, and he gets happy, which is a positive emotion. Just like you cry and you also laugh. Jesus wept. He was a God and he wept. But he also rejoiced. He also got happy. You see, that's a beautiful thing. So anyway, this is my ad libitum. Let's put it there. And what ad libitum means, at liberty. You just speak your mind. And that's how Jesus was doing. Jesus was, if you study the Gospels, there is no order really. You should love your enemies for this. Then he says something else. So he was just talking his thoughts, and these people wrote down. By the way, for information, the Gospels, they have not written everything Jesus said. That's just a small bit. Everything, and I've told you about Africa. African religions, they never wrote. That's the saddest thing about African history. So what does that mean? The only beautiful thing about African history is the knowledge was passed down orally. But the problem of oral communication, you remember the game Broken Telephone? That's what happens. Because someone will tell you this happened, this, then he will go and change it when he takes it to another place. Then he goes and changes it. So you don't know the reality. That's why it's not advisable to spend so much time in religion, because it's mostly hearsay. You are not there in the Garden of Eden. So why do you die for something that you didn't even see? You see? So that's what you need to understand about life. These days I just take it easy, because the more you read, the more you know, the more it just makes you go funny. Okay, let's close this video and then we come back for the Babel discussion. that is from